Okay, are we good? Yeah. Okay. All right, good morning. Welcome to today's board meeting. I'm going to go ahead and call us to order. And with that, Carrie, will you do roll call, please? Galavis?
Here.
Plenty.
Here.
Magnuson?
Here.
Pantera?
Here.
Westminster? Here.
5 board members present and absent.
All right, thank you, Carrie. Good morning, everyone. Welcome again to our meeting today. No current introductions, and we have everybody around the room. And in regards to communication, we don't have any updates. So with that, we're going to move toward our minutes approval. Before we do so, I will point out that on the table of contents, we have this beautiful, wonderful new process that lists the page numbers on the table of contents. So if you've not seen that yet, that will certainly help get us to the right spot throughout the meeting. So thank you for getting that. It's revolutionary. Little piece there. All right, so moving on to minutes. Minutes is an action item. So looking to my fellow board members for a motion to approve our April 13, 2022 regular meeting minutes. Do I have a motion to do so?
I read the minutes. I move we approve the minutes of written.
Okay, Brian, thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Bill. Okay, all board members in favor, say aye.
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 None opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Okay, next up is our consent agenda. These may be either approved in a single motion or separately. We have the two consent items are the payment of bills and payroll. In addition, we have the financial reports year to date through March 31st and the gift fund activity for March 2022.
I move we approve the consent agenda, including the payment of bills and payroll and the financial reports.
All right, thank you, Phil. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All board members in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, none opposed. Thank you, board members. Okay, moving on. We are now to section 5 under Friends of the Boise Public Library. And today, welcome back. I think I saw Jill on there. Welcome back, Jill.
Thank you. Can everyone hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
we can certainly hear you.
Great. So I just have a few quick updates today. Last weekend, we ran our May auction and we raised $2,500. The most popular item seems to have been boxes of 66 DVDs, which I think we sold more than 15 of. So that was that will give us some more breathing room upstairs for sure. And it was great to move some of those out of the building. We're also gearing up to support the summer reading launch. We'll have a table there giving away books and inviting people to become members, and also check out our new website, which we have just done a soft launch of. You can find that by going to either treecitybooks.org or .com or friendsoftheboisepubliclibrary.org or .com. And on there, you can find a list of all our sales for the year. You can join as a member online. You can download a volunteer form. Just get lots of information about the Friends and what we support and what we've been proud to do for more than 50 years now. And then later this month, we have our porch sale that will be going on the 28th and 29th on the main library front porch. So come down, shop frequently. If you're not going out of town for Memorial Day weekend, it's a great way to browse and pick some great bargains. So that's all that I have for today.
Thank you, Jill. Porch sale is always a fun one to attend. I know I've attended that one several times myself for summer reading. Thank you for all that you're doing and please pass along our gratitude to all of the board members and to all the volunteers. Fellow board members, do you have questions for Jill? All right, Jill, thank you for making time for us today. We very much appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, next up is Boise Public Library Foundation, and I believe we have Camille Franks on today representing. Good morning.
Morning. Thank you for having me. So 3 key updates from the foundation. First, the foundation recently contributed about $60,000 from the Mary Clara Allison Trust. This was earmarked for print materials, and we're excited that the check was cut about 30 days ago, and the materials have already been ordered. So that's great. Next update is the foundation has been asked to consider supporting the library's Boise Comic Arts Fest. And we agree this is a great opportunity for the, for the community. And we're in our preliminary discussions around ways we can support, including looking at sponsorships. And then finally, update on, we had at one time been looking at hiring an employee for the foundation. And so we formed a committee to explore this, look into the practicalities of it, and found that there was just really an insufficient workload. And the majority of the resources were already within the board. So the committee recommended and the board agreed that we would press pause on this for the time being. So that's it from the foundation so far.
Thank you, Camille, for your report today and for all the work that you and board members are doing for the library. Again, fellow board members, any questions for Camille in regards to the foundation? All right, Camille, thank you so much for joining us today in Brian's absence. Appreciate it.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Okay, next up is old business with public library.
Skip me.
Did I skip you? Oh, library director. I'm learning that I maybe don't do well with having 2 separate. Jessica, would you like to speak?
Please. I just have a couple of things I want to highlight from my director's report. First off, I want to also thank Carrie and Ann for just doing this fabulous agenda that has the page numbers. One of the things we've noticed is sometimes just literally getting on the same page about some of the discussions around policy will help. So thank you guys for coming up with that improvement for us. I would also just really encourage you, if you get a chance, to check out the New Friends website. It is beautiful. And just really, I know they spent a lot of time getting that put up so that they can communicate with the public and with volunteers. So I really encourage you to take a look at it. And as the foundation mentioned, we're really pleased that we're having great discussions with them, and the contribution, the restarting of the Mary Clara Allison Fund, and being able to use that, as Camille mentioned, they cut us a check, and Kathy and her fabulous team have got those new materials on order, so we'll get to see new books in people's hands shortly. A couple other things that I wanted to highlight. First off, may have skimmed over this, but the first line of my director's report talks about all locations experienced normal operations during April with no pandemic related adjustments to hours or services. I think we just need a moment to recognize how I have never not written a director report that did not talk about pandemic related changes. So we're hoping case counts continue where they are, because that just felt good.
It did.
Felt really good for April for us.
Back to normal.
The other thing I really want to encourage you, if at all possible, the city's attorney's office has this month is providing training to directors, board members, and commissioners. And the first training was on the 4th, May 4th, so I was able to attend it. Thought it was really well done. It's a great overview of the issues that boards and commissioners and directors face with regards to doing the public business in the public eye. And so talking about public records requests, open meeting laws, Robert's Rules of Order, social media. So they've got another training scheduled for May 18th. and it's from 12:30 to 2 if you have a chance to go. I also recommend our own Ed Jewell does the public meeting and has a fabulous serial meeting joke, so I totally recommend.
Quite proud of that.
I know you're totally hard on it, it's worth it. But if that works for your schedule, if not, the city's attorney's office is also wondering if this would be something that boards and commissioners would want going forward on an annual basis, since I'd be happy to take that feedback as well.
I think providing that feedback, I saw it come out, and I think that is a great resource for board members to be able to have that on periodic opportunity to attend training around that. It's so different when you have to run the meeting versus sitting into a meeting, and so being able to have that prior to in this journey would have been very helpful.
So I want to talk a little bit about the FY23 budget. We are on track to have you approve the FY23 budget in the June meeting. But due to the timing of the budget build, we were not able to provide you with a draft to discuss in this meeting. So we recognize that means you'll have a tighter turnaround when you do get that June packet. And so really appreciate you setting aside time for that. And obviously when you're reviewing it, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out, because that will help us make sure that we're answering questions in that June meeting that you may have. So don't feel that you need to wait to send me questions. Send those ahead of time so we can make sure that we've got a productive discussion. The other thing I would recommend is that if you get a chance to watch the May 24th City Council work session, and when they have that, I'll send out a link to all of you. That will be the work session that will feature Eric Villamoria from the budget office talking about how the budget was built and the strategy and the priorities. And then each department director will go through and present on behalf of each division or each department. So I'll be part of that on the 24th. And I think that'll provide you with really good context of how all the pieces that Eric talked about last month about ARPA funding and some of the one-time investments and the city's priorities, how that all fits together. It's at 8 a.m., so you may want to just watch it afterwards. So I'll make sure you have the link for that, unless you'll be like me and there in person. And also in June, we'll previewing that June discussion. We will have Sean Wilson from Public Works come in and do a more in-depth discussion about some of our FY22 and 23 major equipment and repair and maintenance work. So following up on an earlier discussion about, hey, when we've been able to figure out some of the work plans that Public Works will be working with us in some of our investments, could we have them come back and present that? And so we believe that June would be a good month for that session. And then finally, just want to plug a couple of upcoming events because we're very excited. As I mentioned, May 18th, the city's got that training, but also Bound Crossing turns 5 years old. So at 4 o'clock, if you're interested in coming out to Bound Crossing for a party that will celebrate that library and that community, that will be at Bound Crossing on the 18th at 4 o'clock. It will unfortunately conflict with the mayor's State of the City address, which is also at 4 o'clock on the 18th. That will be at Jump, and it'll be live streamed as well. So when we get that, we'll also send you a link. So if you come to the party with balloons and cake, we'll make sure you also can see the mayor. And then finally, our summer reading and learning celebration. You'll learn more about that with Erin's presentation. But that will be Saturday, May 21st from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Jump. And that will be fabulous, but I won't steal his thunder, as tempting as it is. And with that, does anyone have any questions?
It sounds like you're recommending we all watched the budget discussion on May 24th as a basis for stimulating questions. And I assume a link will be coming out for that.
Yes,
And then I may be not able to watch it. Tonight.
it will, right. The link will be and when it's built, I'll make sure that everybody gets it. It'll be, the city website, the YouTube channel has all the public meetings listed. And then once they're stream live, and then once they stream live, then they're just recorded. So we'll make sure you get it.
Any other questions for Jessica? And then on the May 18th at 4 o'clock, the board members need to notify Carrie if you will be in attendance for round crossing, depending on the number of us trying to do that.
Might have to notice them. Correct. Oh, thank you.
The same with the summer reading. So, oh yeah. And we can just do that directly to you in an email.
Yeah,
Correct.
I'll send an email and you guys can respond.
Okay, thank you, Carrie, for keeping us on track there. All right, thank you for that report, Jessica. Okay, up next, Sarah Kelly Chase on the Boise Public Library Policy Review.
Yes, if you refer to page 8, I put in a summary. I put quite a few sections in here because they were ones that we don't need to do much in the way of updating for. I did make a note. I held back because I jumped ahead a little bit. Next month, we'll discuss security and rules of conduct, but we're making sure we're involving all of our staff members in that. So wanted to give it enough time. But for today, we're looking at technology and then also confidentiality of records. Not recommending any changes right now. For regulation, I had one note. We had kind of an outdated term, disks, DISKS, that I wanted to eliminate and just leave generically as devices. But does anyone have any questions about any of the sections? Many of them were very recently reviewed or updated as well.
Hearing any questions from the board?
I actually have one. I'm trying to, I think I asked about the confidentiality of records. Once before.
Could you tell us what page you're on?
Page 15.
There we go. Thank you.
So my understanding is that the library does not keep records of people's access or checkouts. But some of the services that we purchase do keep those records. So given the fact that the city is paying for those services, or the library is paying for those services, how does that affect these policies?
Well, there's a couple, I can think of a couple different ways. We actually have a kind of a disclaimer note on our website related to things like databases that was created a couple of years ago to kind of talk about the things that are outside of our scope. For the IDA app, for checkouts, we did notice if you do self-check, that history doesn't erase, and you're actually working with a vendor to see if you can get that to disappear or have the option for it to disappear.
Yeah, but I
So that
think
kind of-
Libby has a history.
And I think that's one of the pieces that we've got as a separate document on our website. Sorry, I keep looking at you. Is that correct?
We have a third party terms and conditions, basically, yeah. And when you go to that page, then it makes you so that you can jump off and see what the other terms and conditions are. We do read them very closely as we bring on new resources. There's been a couple of times when we've opted not to bring on a resource because we felt it was too invasive. That being said, most of our resources that we offer tend to be fairly general across libraries. Overdrive within Libby, keeping that reading history, that definitely is, because it seems like a seamless part of our services, even though it is an outside entity. So I can understand where you're thinking of along those lines. We do list it in that digital resources page. So the disclaimer is on top of that page
with overdrive and Libby.
So the policy says that employees will not make anything available. But if there is a formal request from one of the government agencies, they actually have a pathway into getting that information.
Maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that they would need to contact the actual corporation. Is those,
But they could subpoena those records if they felt they had a legal case for it.
So like if another government agency, they would have to, get a warrant.
Right, right.
So in order to get a warrant, you gotta go to the judge and say a reasonable suspicion, and they would look at it if there's less than basic means to get it. That would impose on the confidentiality concerns.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions about any of the other sections? Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah.
Sure.
Up next, we have our strategic planning. And we have both Heidi Lewis and representing the library as well as Phil Magnuson will conclude the trustee update. So with that, I will turn it over to you.
Great, thank you. Thank you for letting me join you again today to provide a briefing on the strategic plan. There will be a slideshow that we may see momentarily. Excuse me, but as we're waiting for the slides, or in case that they don't work for some reason, it's happening. There we are. So the overview is I'm going to give you just a quick high-level status update, high-level schedule, a timeline update, a steering committee update, a high-level stakeholder types and tactics, board involvement check-in, and then next steps. So for our overall status update, the work continues. The steering committee had its second meeting on the 26th of April. We have canceled the May steering committee meeting because it is the day before the state of the city presentation, and there's a lot of budget work going on internally with the city, so we have canceled May's steering committee meeting. We'll be meeting again in June. The work groups are refining their process and questions for the various types of engagement as we continue to work through those. We also continue to work with community engagement, the Office of Community Engagement. We are also adjusting the timeline because of talking through with a number of work groups, talking through the consultants, even talking with the steering committee and hearing some of their comments. We really want to make sure that staff are fully engaged in this process. There are a number of things we're doing now to engage staff, and we want to do even more because I'll talk about it a little bit more in some other slides, but we're doing that. And then also the summer can be a hard time to engage with the community, so we're extending the timeline for community engagement to try to reach as many people as possible. I'll talk more in depth about those things in the next few slides. So overall for this timeline, you've seen this before, and this actually will probably be the last time you'll see it. We're updating the graphics for this slide and to make it fit in a little bit more with the presentation and to accommodate some of these changes and adjustments that we're making. So the considerations for me talking about adjusting the timeline, we have three main considerations. We've heard from the steering committee, from staff, that we want to focus on community members who don't use the library and people who may have stopped going to the library to ensure we're getting new insights, especially because so much has changed for people over the last couple of years. We've heard there's a lot going on this summer, both with the city of Boise itself as an entity and in and around Boise, which means there are a lot of opportunities for us to coordinate. And we've heard that staff would like to be involved. So also this method of strategic planning is new to us, and we have a lot of new staff. And so we want to take the time at the beginning of the engagement to engage with the staff first in staff surveys and staff listening sessions. So they are ready to better be prepared to boost the stakeholder and public engagement piece of the overall community engagement. So again, the steering committee members noted that we have multiple opportunities to coordinate with other efforts this summer, including digital access, studies and efforts, zoning code rewrites, recycled water efforts, and the mayor's office work on community partnerships. These are just a few examples of some of the other big things that are happening this summer. And then for the steering committee update, when we did meet in April, one of the things we talked about were the stakeholder types and tactics, which I'll go into a little bit more in the next slide, but this really is an important part of how we're approaching community engagement overall. So with this table, you can see that we've got 4 different types of stakeholders: promoters or allies, potential promoters, users and active partners, and potential and low users. Got a definition there, and you'll see that for the promoters, the allies, again, staff show up there, that we really want to make sure that staff, as one of our biggest promoters and allies, are fully prepared. They've gone through some of the engagement themselves, so when they're suggesting to someone that they take a survey, or they're suggesting to someone that they join a community conversation, they can speak about it more because they've gone through it themselves. There's different engagement needs for each of those stakeholder types. For example, our current users and active partners, we want to make sure that we're keeping them informed, but they may not need as much effort as some of these other groups, especially people who are potential users or low users, where we really want to make sure that we're intentionally seeking them out and trying to get them part of the city and the library in a new and different way. So I wanted to share, that's one of the things we shared with the steering committee, and give you some insight into, this is a piece of our community engagement approach. And then in our next slide, I wanted to just very briefly check in on the Board of Trustees involvement. So this again is a slide you've seen before, but last month I talked about the community conversations and seeing what your availability might be for June. And at this point, we are planning now for the community conversations to happen in July, because we'll be having the listening sessions, conversations with staff in June. So I wanted to point that out, that we will be coming back to you for those invitations, finding times that work for your schedules, but we're looking at July rather than June. So I wanted to point that out. And then for next steps, we are going to be finalizing the communications and engagement plan with the Office of Community Engagement. The staff survey and staff listening sessions will begin. We expect that we hope to have the staff survey out before we meet with you next and have the listening session scheduled. So we'll report back in June on communications and engagement plan and continue to work with efforts.
A lot going on. Thank you, Heidi. Are there questions specifically for Heidi before we turn it over to Phil?
Yeah, I'm wondering if you can go back to the schedule slide and talk about where you're making adjustments.
Sure. Thank you, Josh. So this was the original timeline for the scoping with the consultants back in January. We worked a lot over the past few months. So originally the community stakeholders and staff engagement were going to be May and June. What we're suggesting is that we're going to do the staff engagement in May and June. And then in June, we might start picking up the stakeholder and community engagement, but it will continue. We're thinking at this point, probably through August. That's what the consultants are recommending to us, so that we are really trying to capture families with kids who may be on vacation, and knowing that school starts back up in mid-August. Right now, we're thinking that we keep at least the community survey open through August, and that gives us more flexibility if we find that we need to add additional listening sessions or community conversations.
So that's engagement via electronic surveys?
That will be one of the tactics.
Just one. Okay. So, okay, so if you put that change in, how do you feel about the rest of it after that?
Yeah, it definitely affects some of the other things
No,
for
well,
sure.
and I'm assuming everything moves out, but even with that, now that you know more about what needs to be done, how do you feel about the time available, like in the second half? Is that enough time?
So the summary situation assessment, or we're trying to go with the phase one summary, most likely then would be happening in September and October. We'd be sharing that the consultants would be pulling everything together, and they can be pulling things together as they're happening. And then the survey would probably be the last piece they pull together. So we're hoping to compress some of that if we can. We may not be able to keep to the same schedule on the second phase, but we are trying to, as needed, we may have enough information to be able to press some of those things.
So my advice would be take the hit, and I would recommend advising doing a complete job rather than rushing, trying to meet the original schedule.
Okay.
That's my feedback.
No, that's really good feedback. I think, I can't speak for everyone, but I'm in alignment with you. I think that we're gonna put so much work into it that last piece, I don't want us to rush through trying to adhere to a timeline that we had originally put in place. I personally, I would be good for us to kind of push that out a little bit. To really be mindful that we're capturing it and not rushing that process.
Does this affect the budget for the project, particularly consulting fees?
That's a great question. That is something we're working out right now with them. Part of it is that so much of their work is getting us ready for the community engagement, both the staff pieces and the community pieces, that once those are in place, it's actually staff who will be doing a lot of that, once the survey is created, then the consultants don't have to stay actively engaged with the survey. They will be once all of the data is collected. And same thing with, they've got drafts right now of the survey, of the listening sessions, of all of the different pieces. And so once we signed off on it, at the leadership team at the project management level, working with the Office of Community Engagement, their work may be more dispersed over those few months, but not additional.
Well, and I'll just add to Brian for your information on this. We also deliberately only scoped with the consultant at phase one because we knew there were too many unknowns with the phase two. To Heidi's point, the contract that we have with them really is right now only has that what the phase one costs are, because we knew we were going to have to build the phase two after more knowledge, one, about how we wanted to do it, and two, like what was going to be a timeline that worked for Boise at this moment in time.
And one other question, the community stakeholder and staff engagement task that's in the middle bar, that's got to drill down to the next slide, right? That's your plan for accomplishing that particular task.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, and that other table, that's the stakeholder types and tactics. And it lists that we have a variety of, we've got passive engagement, we have in person, we have interviews, we have a variety of types of engagement that we're doing.
And the purpose of all of that, this work on this slide is to deliver a situation assessment that's the product of all this work.
Yes, and this is only one piece of that summary. This is the piece where we're really committing to listening to the community and hearing everything we possibly can about their lives and about their interactions with the library, or the fact that they're not interacting with the library. That's going to be one of the biggest pieces that we're most excited about. And we'll have other things that the work groups will be doing, have already started doing, and that the consultants have already started doing, which is peer benchmarking. So comparing us to other libraries, looking at other library systems and other libraries that have done things that are successful that we can look to for benchmarking. And also doing research on best practices, those types of things. So there's also some work that will be done there, and then continued work then of that kind in phase two, when we're researching, well, here's our gap, here's what we heard, what community members want, here's where we're at currently, here's what we need to do to get there. So there will be other elements that will go into that. Yeah, thank you.
Questions, additional questions for Heidi? Okay, that was a great overview. Thank you for going and walking us through that process. Bill, from your perspective as the board
So,
representative.
I don't have a lot to add in terms of a report, because I feel like what the steering committee is seeing and what this group is seeing is there's a great deal of overlap. It's a lot of the same material. We went over, one thing I would add is that we went over a list of stakeholders that are kind of on the list, or community people that are on the list that need to be contacted. And I encourage them to add more of a small business startup group to that. I didn't see they're very strong. So I assume we're moving forward with that. You know, everything looks good. I do think it's a very aggressive schedule. And so we're just gonna have to watch that. And again, I would focus on completeness rather than an aggressive schedule.
We're be mindful of the outcomes. Any other questions, board members for Bill? Hearing none, thank you, Heidi, thank you, Bill, for your presentation as well. Okay, next up is new business in regards to the 2022 summer reading program. And I believe we have Aaron, representative from Hillcrest Branch, on the line with us today.
Hello.
Welcome.
Hold on a sec. This just bumped up. Okay. As you can see the slides. All right. My name is Aaron Bernal. I am, as I mentioned, from the Hillcrest Branch. I'm the project lead this year for our summer reading program. As you can see on the screen, our theme this year is Oceans of Possibilities. The artwork and the theme for this come from the Collaborative Summer Library Program, which is a nationwide program. And a bunch of the other libraries in the state of Idaho will also be using the same theme. We get access to that through the Idaho Commission for Libraries. I want to give a big shout out to our friends of the Boise Public Library for supporting it again this year. We made our largest request I think we've ever made, at least to my knowledge, of the Friends for the summer reading program this year. So I wanted to thank Jessica for encouraging us to go for it, and then a big thanks to the Friends for coming through for us big time. You can go ahead and move to the next slide. So our summer reading team is also a large team. We have people in every location and every department this year. You can see all their names there. If you have any questions, I'll mention, you can feel free to ask me at the end of the presentation. But I am happy to report, you can go to the next slide, that the good news is that it is mostly the same this year. I think our staff breathed a big sigh of relief, and I think the patrons will be happy too. You know, with COVID, and then we made some decisions before that we had kind of rebuilt it in different times, but this year we are keeping it mostly the same. We had a survey that we sent out at the end of last year's program, and feedback was mostly very positive. We did try to incorporate some changes, which on the ensuing slides, I will highlight where those changes are. But again, this year we have a reading focused program. So it's about logging a day of reading. And patrons will only need to read in order to get all of the various rewards that they can earn throughout the program. And there's prizes for everyone who participates. So everyone gets something, has something to shoot for. We are using Beanstack again this year, which is an online tracking app made specifically for these sorts of summer reading challenges that we have subscribed to. It has both a web browser-based component or an optional app that people can download. We do have options though that people can participate offline if they choose, and I'll talk more about that in a bit. Let's see if I have anything else. I don't think I have anything else. Yep. Okay. So and then one of the big changes we have, which is already kind of highlighted, is that we have the Summer Reading and Learning Celebration to kick us off this year. This was an event that kind of had a genesis a few years ago, but then got canceled due to COVID. And we kind of decided this year we could bring it back and try to go forward with it. It's in partnership with a number of other organizations, including Ada Community Library, Boise School District, Idaho Public Television, Rediscovered Books. And then we have a number of other organizations that will also be there, either with tables, presenting information about various opportunities for education this summer. There'll also be some performances. Boise Rock School is going to be there and providing a lot of music. We'll have library music and movement events, and we'll have storytelling. There's food that people can purchase. There'll be some other lawn games and fun things out there. So it's just a way to get people excited about, summer reading approaching and kind of letting them know what resources there are out there in the community for them over the summer. We're excited about it. The staff, we're providing a number of staff, of course, for this event. We have, we're going to be promoting it in the libraries through normal paper means and social media and all that sort of thing. We're also asking staff to wear their summer reading t-shirts. So this year we got summer reading t-shirts again. I don't have mine on. I actually have mine from last year on. Mine's in the wash, so I need to get it. But it's green, and it has actually has an octopus on it to kind of keep with the summer reading Oceans of Possibilities theme. So our dates this year are from May 25th. So notice that the celebration is on the 21st. It'll give people the opportunity to kind of pre-register for it, but then it officially kicks off on May 25th and runs through August 16th. It's a bit longer this year. This year we made the decision to used to start on June 1st, but the Boise School District moved their calendar up a bit a few years ago, so that they end on May 25th. And we'd always get people in starting to ask, hey, when's some reading start? Now we can actually say it starts right now. We don't have to put them off till later. So it's going to go through the entirety of the Boise School District's summer break. We have age categories again this year. It's available for all ages. One new thing we have is the babies category. Last year we added the early readers category, which was focused on a lot of pre-literacy activities based around what we call the 5 practices of read, write, talk, sing, play. They're things that get young children's minds ready to read. But we added this year the babies. Those 2 programs are going to be essentially the same. We're asking caregivers to complete one early literacy activity or read a picture book with their child each day. But the big difference is the suggestions of the activities will be tailored to each age group and be developmentally appropriate for those different age groups. For the youth, teen, and adults, the goal is the same, is just to read for at least 20 minutes each day. We do have optional activity badges that people can earn. All of the prizes that they can earn is just through the reading, but there will be some other fun activities that we'll suggest. These will be on activity cards that were released throughout the year or throughout the summer. About roughly once a month, there'll be a new set of suggested activities that could be challenges like reading outside or reading a book at the same time as a friend or reading a book you saw on TikTok, various things like that. The prizes that the patrons can earn, we set goals of 30, 60, and 80 days of reading. When they sign up, they get a book. So you sign up for the program, you get a book, get them excited, get them something to read right away. And then they can earn a second book at 30 days of reading. At 60 days, and this is increased slightly. Last year it was 50 days because since we extended and made our summer reading program longer, we thought we'd make that challenge just a little bit tougher. they can pick a prize, and we have a number of different prizes from mini brick sets or stuffies, or I think there's gonna be library branded bags that they can choose from. One thing that is a difference is last year, some people were not as happy with the prizes. We kind of limited it to, you're in this age group, you get this prize. But we have some prizes left over from last year, plus we're buying a selection of prizes this year, so they'll have more choice and they can choose whatever they want. Then last year at 80 days, we had something we called Hall of Fame, if they read it every day all summer. And they got to write their name and put it up in like on a banner at the various locations. But they didn't get any physical prize. The feedback we got is this was not very motivating for folks, so we are giving them the chance to earn a third book of their choice if they hit that 80-day target. One thing we are going to add back in this year a little bit is prize drawings. In the past, we used to have big, large grand prizes that was kind of the main thing everyone was shooting for. Now we're going more to everyone can win something. We are adding some prize drawings though. One thing we noticed in our stats last year was that our teen engagement really kind of cratered compared to previous years. We're not entirely sure the reasons for it. I mean, it could just be down to it's harder and really difficult to engage with them the last couple of years and get them into the library. But we also think maybe that they might be more motivated by those prizes. So that's one of the main reasons we're kind of bringing prize drawings back. We are bringing it back for all ages, and we'll make sure that each branch can have some winners. These are going to be much smaller value in the past. Not going to be a large, big ticket item. They'll be smaller gift certificates or candy or things like that. This is the one aspect of our program that you do have to participate in Beanstack to kind of be a part of. The main reason for that is that Beanstack makes it incredibly easy for us. Staff doesn't have to, manage little pieces of paper or do anything. Beanstack, you log your days and we can just kind of click a button and it'll give us a name out. And it gives a little bit of kind of push towards using that, or at least updating Beanstack from time to time. The prizes are the one aspect that are still a little fuzzy. I don't know the exact prices we're going to have. One thing I do know though is that this is definitely not a raffle. All the staff has been instructed not to use that word. We've been told in the past when we've had these sorts of things that the city legal does not, there's something different about a raffle that makes it not okay. So it's not a raffle, it's a prize drawing.
We're all looking at Ed.
I stand by the advice of.
We can go to the next slide. So our next thing that is exciting is, so one of the big feedbacks we had last year was that the people wanted paper trackers. We kind of pushed everyone to Beanstack last year and said, hey, use that. We had some paper trackers available that people could kind of keep track, analog, old style, but we didn't make them available as much. And they were kind of like, okay, if you really don't want to do Beanstack, we'll give you one. As a result, a lot of people said, hey, I still want that. So this year we brought it back. We've kind of condensed it to a one-page sheet where it's something they can put up on the refrigerator and the kids can keep track of how much they're reading each, every day. They can color in another square, or in this case, as you can see, a shell. We have put the call out to our staff members to create some of these, and we're really excited with how they turned out. There are 4 of them. They are not age specific, so I think some of them might appeal to different age groups, but we're going to allow people to choose whichever one they want to kind of track along. And on the back side, then there will be details about the program itself and kind of how it's a little bit different for each age group, but anyone can use the front side. So the first one we have is Wally the Walrus from Charles at Collister. He designed this one, and they'll be coloring in the shells and moving their way up the pile of shells he's eating and earning the different prizes as they go. Our second one is Story Time with Octopus, which was from Jenny here at Hillcrest. Once again, they'll be coloring in those suckers on the tentacles, moving around, earning a book, and then a prize, a treasure, and then of course they can earn a final book there. Our third one is the Splash. It's a punk rock band that we have, and they color in this is from Katie at Maine, I should mention. They're going to be coloring in a kelp, and they'll cover in the bubbles, and they'll cover in the musical notes. And then our last one is Seaworthy's Library from Brittany out at Baum Crossing. And this one, they'll be coloring the books on the shelf, and each time they complete a shelf, they'll come in for a prize. So those are the paper trackers. We're very excited about them. I think patrons will really like them. However, we are still using Beanstack. Beanstack, and there's the URL for it, and we'll have links to that from our main website as well. One of the big reasons for that is Beanstack is our means of stat tracking for this program. That was one of the kind of big advantages of having that is prior to having an electronic means of tracking everything. It involved moving lots of paper and keeping track and hash marks and all sorts of things. But this will give us, it gives us very rich data about how many people participated, how much they read, where maybe if they fell out of the program at some point, we maybe can see that kind of pattern and know, which is kind of what we looked at last year with the teens not participating as well as they had in the past. We'll have access to patrons. They can use it on their devices, but we'll have also on our computers, and we'll have laptops set up in the library that they can come in and update. They can keep track on the paper, and they can update when they come into the library. So that brings me to the end of my presentation. Does anyone have any questions about the summer reading program this year?
Not any questions, but I love the spirit of continuous improvement. Going back and figuring out what didn't go as well last year, what we could do to change that. I think that's great. Make for a vibrant experience.
Thanks.
Very, very well done, Aaron. And I'm blown away by the talent of our staff with the paper trackers. Very, very impressive, the creativity, but also just the whole program in general. It is interesting. I, as you were talking about the paper trackers on the refrigerator, that's what I was thinking. Oh, it's so awesome for little family members to be able to mark off each of those. So very, very well done.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Aaron?
I was just going to add that kind of in the world of everything being digital, it's fun to see some analog stuff still there and the desire to do that. And, I've got nieces and nephews and they still love to get hands-on as much as possible. So I think it's cool and fun to see.
Yeah, we're excited for the paper trackers. I think there'll be a good response to them. That was definitely something that was in all the surveys came back strong that we needed to bring those back.
Almost some old school. Old school. Aaron, thank you. That's a great presentation.
Yes,
a lot of wonderful information. Thank you for spearheading and really appreciate your involvement with that. Thanks for taking the time for us today.
Mm-hmm.
Up next, we have our Ada County Library, the fiscal year 2022 Ada Community Library Annexation Compensation Agreement. And I believe, Carrie, you're going to spend a few minutes chatting with us on this.
Yes. In your packet, you would have seen on page 16 of a memo that gave a little bit of background of the Ada Community Agreement that we have. This was in order to give some context to our new board members and to just give a refresher to our other board members who've seen this before. Since 1994, Boise Public Library has reimbursed Ada County for revenue was lost due to some city annexation of previously unincorporated county land. And that the services also that they provide to Boise Public Library residents. The payment amount has been set at $544,000. It's been that since about 2007. So what we have here before you is asking for your approval to continue with this and to provide this funding to aid a community for the services they provide for Boise residents. Questions?
I did have a couple of questions. Is this already expensed in the budget? You know, it falls under maintenance and operations, right? Took from the note.
Mhm.
And it's the part of the budget that we're running a little ahead of. We consumed 62% of the budget at the halfway mark.
Right.
I'm just wondering if this is already expensed or not.
It is not expensed at this point. Only after this approval that it will go to the council, and at that point, we could then issue the payment. Some of the items that we have as far as expenditures go happen a little earlier in the year, so sometimes that percentage tracker is a little bit off as far as how our actual expenses happen.
Okay. Is there a need to flag city or something that we might have difficulty with? I mentioned this last time with the maintenance and operations budget.
We do track that, and if there is anything that we think might come up that could take us over our budget, we do notify the budget office
Okay.
that could happen.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Carrie?
It's very clear, the material that you provide, so thank you for that.
Sure. All right, so we have, the action is to have a motion to approve as presented and submit to city council for the final approval. It has been requested. So I look to my fellow board members. Do we have a motion to approve and accept?
I will make a motion that we approve this payment to the Ada County Library. Is that your name?
I'll second the motion.
All right, second, all board members in favor, please say aye.
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 Hi.
None opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Fellow board members, thank you, Carrie, for providing that in-depth explanation for us. Sure. Okay, next up, we have is a selection of trustees to review payment vouchers for May and Galaviz. Sonia, will you be available to complete?
Yep. You bet.
Wonderful. Thank you. All right, next up, regular board meeting is Wednesday, June 8th. Is that a conflict for anyone?
No.
All right, our next board meeting will be June 8th. And with that, we do need to have a motion to move into executive session.
I have one quick question.
Yes, sir.
On the expense items for the month of April. There were a couple items I didn't recognize. I just wanted to understand what they were. One was C. Dygert Solutions.
So the Links Consortium did an assessment of the consortium as a whole. And C. Dygert Solutions is the consultant that we brought on in order to help us through that whole process.
Okay. And
Just a quick on that, that was also money that was paid for by the consortium reserve funds. But because we, as City of Boise, manage those funds, we made the payment for it. Although that work was overseen and approved by the directors of the Links Consortium.
okay. All right, and the other one was innovative interfaces. Just wondering what that is.
That is also, so that's the integrated library system. Innovative Interfaces is the company that we contract with to provide our catalog and interface.
All right, and one more, sorry.
That's good.
Garden City Library. Is there a similar arrangement with Garden City as we're looking at Ada County Free Library?
There is a similar agreement with Garden City. It's not as large an amount, and it's based upon the open access agreement that we have with the Links Consortium members. And their contract was an automatic renewal.
Okay. All right, thank you for your patience.
Pop quiz passed.
Good questions, Brian. Thank you, sir.
I move that under provisions of the Ohio State Code 74206, 1B, this board recess to an executive session for the purpose of discussing personnel matters, and that a roll call be taken on this motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I have to do a roll call.
Roll call. Galavis,
Yes.
Plenty,
Yes.
Magnuson,
Yes.
Pantera,
yes.
Westfield,
Yes.
all in favor, motion carries. Brian. Trustees on virtually, you'll want to go leave Zoom and go into the Teams meeting. Thanks, Nikki.
We have everybody here.
Sorry. Don't know why that's different. It's not. Okay, I think we're good. Nope.
Just
Okay, I think at this time, I will take a motion to adjourn the meeting. Okay.
I move that we adjourn the meeting.
All right, thank you, Brian. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Bye.
Hey, none opposed, meeting ends. Thank you, everyone. Have a good rest of your day.